the approval, I mean, we give the, you know, the go-ahead to move forward, we would still have to take, this board would still have to take other actions?
Yes, yes. You would actually have to issue general obligation bonds to do this. So this is just a process to basically be given the privilege of getting these, basically it's a rebate type program where the subsidies offset the interest costs for the amount that's actually borrowed. And there is a limit per locality of $15 million for this.
Okay. All right, other questions at this time? Vice Chairman, we'll start on this end this time.
Oh, okay. Dr. Keeler, just to make sure, you're asking for proposed projects of 18 million, but the maximum we could get is 15 million. So if we get the maximum, some of the $18 million wouldn't be able to be done. And I take it you've already prioritized what you would do based on getting 15 million?
Let me answer that. Basically, this is a competitive-based application process, and there's 100 points possible for the different categories for allocation. The Bowling Green project looks like it would be eligible to receive about 80 points. For the Caroline High School projects, we're probably looking at 20 to 30 points. So the likelihood of those getting, of the high school projects getting funded is much less likely just due to the way the competitive process is set up.
Okay. Then the other thing is that you're actually, I don't know, has the school board made the determination that you're going to make Bowling Green primary the K-5 school? That's been decided by the school board already?
Yes. If that's the option that comes forward, and that is the option that they're choosing to go with, is consolidating both schools, finishing the renovation, and adding on to Bowling Green Primary to make it the PK5 school. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and that's really what I wanted to know based on our conversation yesterday about the $6 million I thought the board borrowed to put some money into Bowling Green Elementary. Now I understand why the school board reallocated some of that money if you're going to move to Bowling Green Primary. And that's, you know, that's fine. I just now understand it, so that's good.
And from my understanding, the money was spent, and from my understanding, it was spread out over the 3 schools, and when the bids went out, they only thought, and it was shared at that time, because I did a little bit of history work after we talked, that they thought the bids would come in so high on the 2 original schools. That was why some of that decision was made.
Okay, and that's part of what we talked about yesterday is we just have to talk more,
right,
to understand that. But I remember, and the reason I do remember is I made the motion particularly to fix the bathrooms in Bowling Green Elementary because a parent had made a presentation to us that night. And going there yesterday and seeing that they hadn't been done was another story. But if your plan is to move away from that school, I understand not investing in it. And if, you know, that's what the architect is saying, your plan is to move away from that school. So do you plan to invest any more money in Bowling Green, the elementary school?
The only reason that there would be any investment is if, you know, reallocation, and it's in the CIP, that we might look forward use for that as possible governor's school CDLC, depending on what growth and what rates are. But immediate, that could be something that could be addressed in 5 years, but not at the level that the school's being used now by the 300 students or plus that are there.
Okay, okay. And I'm sure that's probably something we need to talk about. Like I said, if we talk more often, we'll know where you're going so we can kind of walk hand in hand as opposed to somebody being in one place and saying, hey, catch up. So that's fine. 0 interest, because you said they're going to subsidize the interest.
The way it's stated in the governor's memorandum is 0 or near 0 interest, and That was discussed last year when we went through this process.
Near is a relative term.
It is.
So is near 2% or is near 5%?
That I don't know.
And that's a lot of money.
I'm going to defer to our,
Give me some near, because what's the prime now?
I see wandering eyes. We've been involved with a number of these. They leave that out there because basically what happens is VPSA is going to sell a taxable bond. Depending upon, the federal government has a rate that's set on a daily basis. And depending upon what that rate is versus where you sell the bonds, it could be 0%. So far there have been 2 bond sales that VPSA has done, and both of them were within the realm of getting 0%, essentially net 0%. There's actually a likelihood that you'll even pay less than 0% because what happens is this is sold as a bullet bond. Monthly, the amortization is set by the federal government. Anywhere, they say in their documents anywhere from 14 to 16 years. This month it's actually 19 years. We just did one for the city of Richmond. It's 19 years. Basically, the bond matures 19 years from now. But you're required under the documents to make payments over that 19-year period. Now, the first 2 transactions, VPSA allowed localities to pay basically 10% of the total in the first 5 years, which means you can skip some years. So you could skip, technically, on the way they've set it, years 1, 2, 3, and 4, and pay all 10% in year 5. And then 40% over the next 5 years, years 6 through 10, and then the balance over the final, in this case, 9 years if you sold this month. So what that means is you can do a little bit of structuring within the first few years. What you're giving up is, if you didn't pay in the first 4 years, you wouldn't have money sitting in the bank earning interest. Of course, as we know right now, you wouldn't earn very much interest at all. If anything, so you're not giving up a lot now, but let's say in 2 years, rates go back to a normal 2 or 3%, that money will be earning 2 or 3%, so that by the time you get down to year 19, you actually have money in the bank to help offset that last payment. So that's why I say it could actually even be less than 0.
But I have to have a lot of money in the bank to make it worthwhile at 2%.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
so we considered that because we had some folks in this spring sale, and there were some questions of whether or not it was going to be able to be sold at 0%. The other issue was whether investors would buy this type of bond, whether there's going to need to be a little sweetener in the pot in order to get an investor to buy this bond. But what was found out was that Virginia's credit was so good compared to other credits around the country that it was able to sell at a rate that was lower than that federal subsidy level, so that it ended up being a 0% net to the folks that were involved in the pool.
Okay, I was feeling really good until you scared me with that. You can pay a little bit for the first 5 years, you can pay a little bit for the next 5 years.
Well, it's your prerogative. I've had a couple clients that did 2 years no payments, and then did years 3, 4, and 5 level over that period. So let's just say you were awarded the full $15 million, and you decided, let's just skip a couple years, let's let the economy get back on its feet, hopefully in year 3. You'd basically be paying $500,000 a year for 3 years. And then after that, you could do level for the remaining amount. So they're just giving you a little bit of leeway when to start making payments. But you can start paying day 1.
But then it's going to be close to, like, that's the real point of the whole thing. It's going to be close to $1 million a year after that. So I have to find.
Yeah, it's 15 million divided by 19.
Yeah, but if I skip a couple of years, just to make the math easy, say I skip 4 years, then I got to pay
You're paying $1.5 million.
$1 million every year.
What, just in that 1 year, then you can level it out after that. You just have to pay at least 10% in the first 5 years.
Right.
And then after that, you could do level for the remaining.
But that
periods.
level is going to be, all right, we're having an issue here.
Here.
10% of 15 million is 1.5 million, right?
Right. So let's
So
say
I pay that.
it's 15 million. You've paid $1.5 million.
$1.5 million in the first 5 years.
So now you got 13.5 to pay over
Right.
the next 14 years, right?
So it's almost
So
$1
that's
million a year.
964.
Okay, so now we're back on track.
That's if you get the full 15.
If I get the full 15, but I'm still paying $1 million a year at some point in that time, and I have to figure out where I'm getting that $1 million a year
Absolutely.
during that time. Okay.
Right.
The last question for me is the second part of your thing is, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but the education job funds is grant money. That's not money I have to pay back, right?
What was that?
The second part of your request. Did I skip ahead? You still want to do the first part?
The next item on the.
Can I do the next item now, too?
Oh,
I think some other questions on the
All
first.
right, I'm sorry. All right. That's all I have for the first part, then we'll get to the second part.
You were the first question.
Dang, I thought I was at the end. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
he's
Mr.
prepared.
Can I add two more things real
Yes.
quick? And I think you may have covered it, and I apologize if I'm double covering it. This is a request. Once you find out whether or not you got the money, you don't have to accept it.
Right.
There are some people that turn the money back in. I will say, though, you've got a pretty good, we've been working with a lot of people that are putting in applications this week. You've got a pretty good shot considering you're consolidating. That one consolidation
And the
project's
age
worth
of the
25
school and
points
the
by
primary
itself.
resource.
There's not many of those that I've heard of. I think I've got one other locality that has that point structure. That is the most points given on anything, so that's gonna put you up toward the top of the list. The other thing is, you asked for money in the spring and didn't get it.
That's another.
We don't have too many of the clients that were in that boat too, so just saying, you actually have a pretty good shot at getting some of this, or at least getting a portion. We don't know how they're gonna do it, because we know there's a lot of people asking for the 210 million that's there.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
And he did a good summary. That is what we were trying to share with the 80 points out of the 100. We stand a pretty good shot on the one project. The other ones may not fare as well because they will be sent in as three separate, so they won't be considered as a package. They'll be considered as three separate proposals. So they could accept one and deny the others.
Okay.
And I guess that was my point. We're sending in 3 applications. They're all going to score separately.
Right.
And then based on those scores. And what's the third, the high school, the Bowling Green School?
And the HVAC for the high school.
And we don't think we have a good chance at that one?
We don't meet a lot of the criteria.
Right, there's 6 different categories that you're allocated points in, and it looks like probably we can get 20 of those points.
Maybe a few more.
I remember reading there was an article in something I had that had all that criteria for it. I actually talked to Dr. Kilo about that, so let's go forward, see what our chances are.
Okay, Mr. Akers?
Yeah. I guess my question is and concern is, I supported the last time around when it was $10 million, and certainly I'll support going forward with the application this time. But my concern is the fact that when this board 4 years ago, roughly 4 years ago, went out and borrowed $6.8 million to do the projects that people came in here, pretty much like was said tonight, there are towels in the windows and there were other issues with the school. We were trying to address those problems because the school board came to the board and said these were concerns and these were issues. You say that the other projects came in high and they could not do what they wanted to. I guess it let Bowling Green Elementary. But the fact is, we just spent some of that money this summer. I guess you're spending some of that money now. We just approved the expenditure of some of those dollars from that $6.7 million for the high school. So I would hate to see us get in a position where we make a quick decision, go out and borrow this money, and then we're in the same spot 3 years from now saying the Board of Supervisors did not support the schools. And I think we've done everything we can. When you've asked, when the school board has asked, we gave you a $22 million school. We went out and we said we're going to pay for the school through tax revenues. And you have a $22 million new school. The board then went out and said we're going to borrow $6.8 million to renovate schools in Bowling Green for the most part. And I think the Madison Elementary School was one of the schools that was involved in that. But the the old Lady Smith Elementary School was not included in that process. So I don't want to get us in a position where we say we're going to fix these issues, but then not fix those issues, but spend the money somewhere else. If we go get the money for combining the Bowling Green Elementary, then let's do that. Let's do that. If we get the money to do the high school, let's do the high school, and don't make these issues so they come back year after year after year, and then go around saying that the Board of Supervisors will not support or does not support the school board. And I don't think that's a true statement at all.
Mr. Akers, that may be true. Since the administration here, that hasn't been the case. We brought everything before you. Everything's been put on the table. Everything's gone through the scrutiny and been approved. The other thing is a lot of the issues that were here, when I arrived, we had to generate and look at all the issues that existed out there. You know, you have a high school that is over 30-plus years old, and for whatever reason, I don't know, only roof and HVAC replacements have occurred. You know, growth in the county, you all are aware of. You're trying to address that through your utilities and many other things that you're trying to do. I can't assume and assess that. Bowling Green Primary and Elementary and Madison, the conditions that they have been in and were let to get to, I have told you will not occur. This $9 million, if it's given to Bowling Green Primary, or the additional $9 million that goes to the high school, will be and held totally in control with those, because we have a plan going in and those have already been presented to you. There would be no reason for us to go away from those. You know, the state of the condition of where the schools are has occurred. We're where we're at now, and I appreciate you being supportive and us continuing to try to move forward to fix those issues, and we will fix them with your support.
How about the issue with the towels in the window? What is that all about?
I still don't understand the direct detail of that. I don't know where the towel was, and you know, that could be anything that could have happened in that day. You have ongoing maintenance, but when I have a maintenance budget that is cut as much as it is, because we're all in the same boat, we're cutting wherever we can. Some things may not get as addressed as quickly as other things. You know, I was unaware of the situation, and I walked through the buildings quite a bit. Again, if you're looking at back doors or windows, some of the doors, that has been addressed. They're in poor condition. It's been talked about. But, you know, when you set priorities, those are priorities that are still coming up the list.
I understand, but I wonder where people get the impression that this board allows the situations to take place and to keep happening that requires towels to be put in the window. I have not ever been told. I remember, quite frankly, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we had a people parade in here, and one lady brought in a chair that had a tennis balls on the legs of the chairs, and indicated that the reason the tennis balls were there because the floors were uneven and was creating problems and had to be replaced. We go and take a tour of the schools about a week later, and in the room, and we asked the principal, where is the floors that you have to have tennis balls to keep them level so the kids will not be, and she said, that's not what the tennis balls are for.
That's right.
The tennis balls is to keep from scraping the floors that we shine.
That's exactly right.
But again, somehow or another, these people get the impression that this board is allowing the schools to fall down. And that is not true. Whenever you've come to this board, and your predecessor as well, and asked for money, we've tried to do the best we could to give the money to make the repairs and to make the improvements. When it was said we need a new school, the board bit the bullet and
I'm coming to you as a new superintendent, you know, here 2 years. It took me a while to get, when I arrived, Lady Smith opened because it wasn't open, and it was almost a half year behind. We had Bowling Green Primary going and Madison going. And I've picked all that up and had to figure out where we were, understand the capacity of the buildings, the operation of facilities, hiring a new maintenance director or buildings director at the time. And we've come a long way, and now we are giving you, and we have been giving you, a lot more direct and detailed approach to what we need and what our timelines are and what we're looking at. And everything that we've come to you to share that we've needed to do, and you all have approved, it's been getting done, and it's been done actually in most cases a little bit below cost. And then we come back and said, we saved some money, can we spend it on this? And y'all have been supportive, and we've moved forward. I don't see anything wrong. We're here at the point now. Can we finish Bowling Green? If we can, great. If we can get the high school done, those are our needs, and then we're going to start facing, and we still may have some issues at Madison, and we're going to have to start moving forward for future growth because it's coming.
if you would please see what you can do with the towel in the windows, because I think that is ridiculous. If we've got that issue, we need to remove the towels and fix the
Maybe it
problem.
was somebody took a shower and was drying.
I don't know, but I mean, evidently this lady that came down and said that we're letting the schools fall down, there was two things she mentioned. One about the doors, and that was
one of the things I did see at Bowling Green, the elementary school, is that the doors themselves don't lock.
Mm-hmm.
And they said these are really expensive locks. You can't secure the building. If there's an emergency, you can't really lock the door. Well, how about a $5 deadbolt that you could screw on the back of the lock and just slide it, and that secures the door a little bit? I mean, we don't have to buy $200 or $300 locks when we can secure them in other ways. I don't know why the locks didn't work, but apparently they didn't work. This is at Bowling Green Elementary School, room 14.
Right, and I can check into it. And again, a room not being secured may not be a reason, you know. My bigger concern with that school right now wouldn't be those issues. One would be the lighting, the bathrooms, the still asbestos abatement, the ADA non-compliance. I can hit the issues, and they're huge. The outside doors are not compliant. The cafeteria, you know what we've had to deal with, sewer hookups. We can go on and on. Those are issues, as you've been saying, where we've now compiled, we've gotten to, and we're saying, all right, we now know the real issues. Do the doors probably need replacement in an older school that's 40 and 50 years old? When I've done renovations in the past or been part of them, yeah, we've done those. You've done all door locks will be replaced because they wear out after a period of time. I got to have the funds to be able to do that. You know, people say, well, that's just $70, but when you get hit with $70 times, if there's 10 rooms in there, plus you get hit with something at another school, you know, we have to look at the need versus is it something I got to do right then and there. Well, I've got doors on that building that can't lock securely at night on the outside, and we've had to address those just like we did with the high school, but we've been able to manage those for right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody here is saying you did a bad job or the school board's, you know, done a bad job. I think considering the circumstances, we've all done fairly well. I think the point, and Mr. Akers and I were probably sitting next to each other, and that's why we remember it so much, is when people came to the board 3, 4 years ago and said, we need this, we acted right away. Now, you know, your priorities shift. It's always a moving target. Your priorities have shifted, so what we thought was being fixed, you're now going to put that effort in another school. And that's fine. We just need to make sure everybody understands that. You know, and I think for me, seeing what you're doing now, I understand that now. But all those people were saying what we needed to do, and I thought we did it already.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where you were.
And truthfully, I understand, and I wish I had been here when that process had gone, because hopefully I would have had a better, different handle on it. You know, but all the needs that were in the 3 schools, and I would have probably come to you with a larger request, so maybe it was better, because I would have wanted to affix all of it, not meaning large to be overdoing or trying to overspend, just to get it done.
We understand we've got a lot to do.
Mr. Popowitz, did you have anything?
I did want to say one thing. I'm glad to see that you're trying to combine the schools. I know we've talked about that before, about other projects, even newer projects, doing something similar to that. And I think this will be, once this goes forward, and I believe it will, it'll be a great experiment that it will go very well, and we can use that model later on for some of the newer stuff. So I appreciate that.
Right, thank you.
Okay. And board members, how you like to move on this? Let's take care of that item first.
I guess we need a motion that says that we're not authorizing you to apply for the grant. Is that what you would call it? What would you call it?
You're authorizing us to submit the applications.
Okay.
And Mr. Ashcraft has to sign that.
You got the resolution already, Mr. Ashcraft?
Actually, it'll come from them, and they'll send it up to me.
Okay. So, all right, in that case, I will, you said authorize the school board to submit a resolution to the county for submittal for $15 million in qualified school construction bonds.
Second.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, maybe I want to
happy
make
to
sure a
rephrase
point,
it.
because I'm heading out, we're heading to VSBA conference tomorrow. We actually have all the forms, and they require your signature and my signature. If I can just get authorization so he can sign them, because we got to get these submitted by Friday. And because I don't know that I have time to.
He's leaving.
I don't know that I need a resolution.
Yeah.
You're authorized
To clarify, I don't think a resolution is needed to put the application in. It's really the
Authorize
superintendent
staff
and
to do
the
it.
superintendent and the county administrator have to sign it, and I think they're just looking for
we will authorize the county administrator to sign any documentation he needs with regards to the $15 million funding request.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's my second.
I've modified my motion. You've modified a second. We're good.
All right, motion made, properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. All right,
Well, just tell me I don't have to pay it.
part two.
I'm bringing up the big guns to help me out on this one.
Just tell us we don't have to pay it back and we can go real quickly.
The job education funds is reimbursable. We're asking you to appropriate the funds so that we can spend them, and then they are reimbursable to you or to us.
How long? How long will it be before they start reimbursing us when you spend them? We'll get the money back.
The money can be done on monthly reimbursements. Very quick turnaround.
And your timeline is this will run till October 1st of 2011 or 12?
12. September 30, 12 is the end date for spending the funds.
So we basically get $946,000 of free money.
Free, yeah, if the state doesn't take it, but yes.
I mean, the government, this is part of the federal money that they're giving to education.
Yeah, for jobs, securing jobs
Right.
and hiring staff.
And
correct.
we don't have to pay this money back.
Correct,
That is correct.
So I get $946,000 of free money.
yes.
Until 2012, in which
For just
time
2
we need to
years.
pick it up.
But I don't
And if we don't spend it, they keep it.
have to pick it up. I'm basically plugging some holes right now, right?
Right.
Do we
Maybe,
have,
I may need to maybe understand plugging the holes a little bit before I.
Plugging holes means you're gonna get $946,000 this year and next year together, right?
It's a
Right,
total of 946.
Right, so in those 2 years, you get $946,000,
for that total time, right?
that total time. When 2012 comes, and if the Aztecs are wrong, we don't have to do anything. We can just let that money stop. You're not gonna come back in 2012 and say, hey, remember that money you guys gave us from the federal government? Now we're $500,000 short in our budget.
We would, truthfully, to be fair on that, because it's a good question, if we hire that staff, we would be hiring them on the contingency that they understand that this would be until this grant money ran out, which
Right.
we do on others, meaning they understand at the end of that time, if aren't subsidized by you or the state, then we can't use them any further.
Okay, because we've done that same thing with fire and rescue, where we had grant positions, and we said, tell them it's only a year or two, and luckily it worked out.
That's why we tried to split this money and spread it out so we can use it over a 2-year period so that we can guarantee them, hoping that the economy and everything will improve. But if it doesn't, then at that time, they understand that their contract is not renewed.
okay, my question is, and if we're talking about hiring people to make the class sizes smaller and things of that nature, that's one thing for the 2-year period. But I also think I read in here where this money could be used for other things than hiring teachers, right? Hiring office staff, hiring.
It has to relate to school-related services.
No, I understand.
Cannot be central office staff. Has
Okay,
to
so
be
central
school.
office would not be included.
No, sir.
Maintenance would not be included.
Maintenance if
would.
they serve a school building, yes.
Raises.
Could be bonuses.
Yeah, bonuses,
Yes,
yeah,
the
okay,
funds
those
can be
type of
used for that,
things.
yes.
Again, I just want to make sure that we're not committing ourselves to something after that 2-year period has expired
No.
because of
Oh, yeah.
billing it into the operating budget.
It won't be bought in the form of giving raises because that can't happen that way. That money is earmarked that way. If the worst that I've heard a board member mention or two is possibly bonuses, but,
Well,
that's
that was
one
on the
time.
thing we got today. Right.
Okay.
And Mr. Akers, to be clear, we really do have needs, special ed hirings, some class size reductions that we really have to address. And there is concern when I got a memo from the organizations that I'm a member of, 2 or 3 of them have hit that, there may be some concerns that the state may use this to supplant some of their obligations. So we have to, I'm sort of cautiously watching to wait and see what happens in the caboose bill that comes in December, too.
This can't be happening.
Yeah, I think this coming year is probably going to be a tough year for education.
For everybody, yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion, if that's what we are needing, is a motion to allow reimbursement on this particular program. I don't like to give away money that the county can use, and so, yeah, I would like to go ahead with the program that they're
I'll make it
proposing.
second. No, but you done? Okay, I'll second.
Okay, motion made and probably second to proceed with the supplemental appropriations of $946,574.38. Is that the right number?
It sounds like a number I read here.
All right.
It's also in this stuff here, in the addendum. You got it broken down by position.
Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same.
Good
All right.
job.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Dr. Kilo and staff.
Thank you, gentlemen and lady.
And next, we have the county administrator's report, which you have in your packet. Ms. Ashcraft and the other, we do have a closed meeting.
We do.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, we're, just as a reminder, we're going to take up the issue that Mr. Akers raised earlier.
Absolutely. Mr. Akers, you raised an issue earlier about employee bonus.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I go back and make my motion that we provide to all county employees that realize the reduction in their salaries this past budget year. Full-time employees would get a one-time monetary award of $1,000, and part-time people would get a $250 award.
Say it again? Say the last part again?
$1,000 for full-time, $250 for part-time. And not all employees took a reduction in pay this year, but the employees that did take a reduction in pay would get this one-time monetary award of $1,000 for full-time employees and $250 for part-time employees. And that's my motion, Mr. Chairman. It's on the floor.
Can I offer a friendly amendment to your motion, Mr. Akers? If you would consider this, and you know, I feel just as you for the county employees. Could we do it in two parts? Could we do 500 now, and then if things look better in June, 500 then?
I don't know that you really, the fact is, we say if things look better. We've been shown tonight that we have more monies than what we had budgeted for. And I'm really not one that wants to give away money. But the fact is, our employees have suffered this past year. And I don't know, $1,000 now or $500 now and 500 in 6 months makes a lot of sense. I mean, you give them $1,000 now, it means something to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know why dividing up in 500 is going to do any good at all.
Well, I just, and I could swear I'm in the twilight zone here, because he's saying what I say and I'm saying what he says, but it would seem like it would be more fiscally conservative to say, we understand the sacrifice of our employees. We understand that they all took cuts. We understand that right now in Q1, our revenue projections look a little better. But I got 11 and a half connections of 75 I'm looking for in the wastewater treatment plant. I have no problem in giving something back to the employees, you know, as surely a gesture of good faith and a gesture of appreciation. I would just like to not give it all back right now.
Would you make a compromise and give them $750 now?
I thought
And
the
that-
500 was the compromise.
No, let's $1,000. I'm holding up them $1,000 for them.
But see, it's
Give 'em
$177,000.
But
It's 177, that's what Ms. Hatcher said, it's 177,000 plus 9,000 for part-time. So it's 180.
Ms. Hatcher, could you
Well,
come back?
what we have the governor, what's the governor giving this year,
He's giving a 3% bonus.
for state employees? I mean, that's kind of who we,
3% based on their salary.
Yes.
Yeah, which may end up better depending on where your salary range was. If you make 100,000, you're gonna get 3,000
Right.
in a raise.
You make
If you
50,000.
if you make 10,000, you get $300.
You don't work for the state if you make $10,000.
Oh, all right.
They do pay a little better than that. Not a lot, but they do pay a little better than that.
All right, Mrs. Hatcher.
Fran, you have a point?
No,
Yeah,
Wayne asked,
well,
Wayne
what
asked
I-
me to come up.
I asked
Yes.
Fran to come up, and the 177, that means that we had 177 employees that took the reduction last year.
165, that includes the FICA that we have to pay on it.
Okay, so that includes the benefits, the FICA that we have to pay, the only 177. Okay. Did you do one on 750?
Yes, I did. 750 would be 133,216.88.
Would you be willing to do that?
I'm willing to do 500. I'm willing to do
All right, let's move on.
You got something to say?
Well, I guess my concern lies in that we're looking at a $1.3 million that we have to have in cash July 1st, 2012. Is that not true?
That's correct.
And right now, what's the plan to get from where we are to there? I mean, you meet with the finance people. Have we talked about a plan for that, Mr. Ashcraft?
Necessarily, that number is in our planning. We understand we're going to have to make a recommendation to the board at some point. I can't tell you tonight how that might be recommended, but we know that that is a number that we have to budget for next.
And I'm just looking at, I mean, we're in the first quarter. I am not opposed to doing the bonus to employees, but I just, at the end of the first quarter, we spent $14,000 additional tonight, and we spent like $85,000 additional last month. So that's almost $100,000. I understand your budget, and that's probably already in there. I completely understand that. But I'm looking at down the road, where are we going to be? What other unknown expenses are we going to have that we're not looking at today? And I understand the employees have given up to help everybody. Those are my concerns, and we've made, that commitment's been made. That $1.3 million is a commitment. My understanding, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Rogers, that money is going to be here next week. Is that not true? And what happens if we don't have the $1.3 million?
They come and repossess the waste.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to accept Mr. Thomas's friendly amendment.
Okay?
I'd just like to have Mr. Rogers answer.
The bond money will be, the closing is on Tuesday morning, so the money will be in the bank, and you have to submit requisitions that the money is spent. To clarify the local reserve, and actually just got this clarified tonight, looking at some of the documents and talking to their bond counsel this afternoon. It's actually October 1st of 2012, not June 30th of 2012. The way they actually, which means you got next
2 months before the act.
fiscal 12 and fiscal 13. The number's $1.3 million.
Well, $1.3 million is close enough for
3.3.
now. What if
Yeah.
we don't?
And then there's
have-
$500,000 the year after.
Right.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page.
What if we're short?
Then you'd be in default.
And what does that mean?
Basically, FRA is not going to loan you any more money anytime soon. But
That might not be a bad thing.
I don't know all the legal ramifications. I'd have to look to bond counsel to give you all that, but.
Mr. Chairman, I amend my motion.
All right.
I don't. I amend my motion. 500 now, 500 in June.
I second your.
500 now, 500 in June?
500 1st of December, 500 in June.
Okay, now I did say if things look good, let's say if our projections hold to the budget, that's defined as looking good to me, okay?
Yeah.
And if I got a $500 check before Christmas, I'd be really happy.
Yeah, is that gonna go to board members too?
No.
No, it does not go to board members.
Absolutely not.
Mr. Seeley, please,
making
I hope
sure.
you don't try to get that $500.
I'm not trying to get it all, I'm
Well,
just clarifying.
yeah, you're trying to get some, maybe not all.
employees that were
It is all employees and county payroll, exception of the board members. The board members do not get their funds reinstated.
Okay.
They're cut reinstated.
Now, we did,
That
just for the
means-
record, though, we did take a pay cut, which was more in line than what the regular employees do. But still, the answer is still no.
The answer is still no.
Would be nice, but no, we can't, I don't think we can.
All right, we got a motion on the floor, made properly second. All those in favor say aye. Yes, sir,
Can I
Mr.
just ask, I guess, a point of clarification?
Sure.
Where does that leave the part-time? You're gonna leave that at 250 and give the full-time 500?
No,
No,
part-time
they
get
get
half, get half of the 250.
So they get 125.
Right.
That's what, yes, they get 125. Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Needed to clarify that point.
No, that's good. Very good observation, Mr. Ashcraft.
Well, the assumption we were cutting his original
Right.
motion in half.
Right.
So as I understand it, just so, for Ms. Hall,
Give her $500.
effective December 1st, whatever pay period that's close to there, employees will receive 500 or 125, depending on their employment status.
Correct.
That's correct.
Then as of, there about June 1st,
Yeah.
there would be another monetary award given in that identical amount.
Based on our
That's-
revenues being
Right.
similar to what we're
Does that
projecting.
have to come back to the board for further concurrence at that time, or do we just
Well, I would think,
process that?
I would think that,
We're gonna see that in the quarterly.
yeah, we're
report.
gonna see that in
I'm just
reports.
asking, just wanna know.
I would think you're gonna see that in reports as to what.
We wanna make sure that we do that. We do wanna make sure it comes back before us. It could even be on consent,
Okay.
because 6 months from now, we might say, oh, I forgot about that, and you wanna see it again. Right? Fair? Okay. Did we vote?
We ready?
Ready?
All the questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries.
Are you ready? Close meeting?
Yes, we have any closing comments? Board members?
I have none.
Poppers, Takers?
No, sir, I do not.
Seeley?
No, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair?
One quick one, and I'm sorry, but I did want to acknowledge the veterans that were here Thursday. Unfortunately, I had to be out of town for business, but I did want to say thank you to the Korean War veterans and the Vietnam veterans, and to Mr. Whiteman, hoorah. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, and we, thank you.
All right.
Can you,
Yes,
make a motion to go into closed meeting?
we are ready to go into closed meeting. I would move that this board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff, exemption, section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia pertaining to actual litigation, Heflin et al. Versus Caroline County et al. That would be the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made, proper second, we go into closed meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Now we go to closed meeting. Right, the only reason that we went into closed meeting were the only things discussed. Mr. Popovich, do you certify?
I still certify.
Mr. Akers? Mr. Seeley?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Chairman?
I so certify.
And I certify as well. Yes, sir, Mr. Akers?
I forgot to pass this on to you. They sent it to me as chairman of the board a year or so ago, but it's a letter from, I should, the Heart Association, Rick, what I would like to do, courthouse lawn,
Oh, the heart tree.
put a Christmas tree.
Oh,
Now they got something we always do that.
they do that all the time.
Yeah, do we need a motion or anything on, using the courthouse yard for displaying the Christmas tree?
I thought we had to ask
The judge.
the judge.
We have to ask the judge.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. You allow holiday tree?
Who wants to make a
Make a
motion?
motion, we approve, or make a request for the holiday tree, put it on the consent agenda at our next meeting.
Second.
Here, let me have that back out, so I can put it in my board report.
You want to just meet in the parking lot? Or you want me to come upstairs?
There's a motion to put on the
I don't have a badge.
consent agenda item? Or
It
to
wasn't an
go ahead and
agenda,
approve it?
put it on the consent agenda next board meeting and just,
When
or
they-
do we just make a motion and do it
We can make a
now?
motion.
Just dispense with it now. That was-
I make a motion, we
Allow.
approve the heart tree on the courthouse lawn.
Second.
All right, motion made, proper second, all in favor say aye.
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 I thought we had to.
One other thing, in case people ask, I've given this as well. Where does your school division rank in salary and benefits in the state of Virginia? What do you think Caroline County ranks?
15th?
Oh, we've seen that already. It was on the website.
Okay, which one?
Moving up.
12th in the state, and still everybody wants to talk like how bad we are in schools. I don't, I really don't understand where they're coming from, and where they're, it's just made up rhetoric is all that.
What document is that from?
I'm sorry?
Where is that from?
It's from the Virginia Education. Board.
Yeah, it's on their
Mhm.
website.
Yeah. I don't think they would allow that, I mean, I think they're being quite honest now. So I'll be talking about that at my constituent meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, motion to adjourn is in order.
Second.
Motion made, proper second, all those in favor to adjourn say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting's adjourned.